Happy Friday.
Hey, Rick, how you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm ready to rock and roll. Got my official headphones on, so I hope I don't have any echo or anything. So,
You look like a DJ.
yeah,
All right.
we're going to be spinning some tunes here in a minute. Hey, I thought it'd be fun to get started um, telling a funny story about Neil Armstrong. And you've probably heard this one, I don't know. But when Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, he had the famous, this is one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Mm-hmm.
But before he re entered the lander, he made a remark, "Good luck, Mr. Gorski." And everybody thought in the command center that he was probably poking fun at Soviet cosmonauts. But upon checking, there was no Gorski in either Russian or American space programs. And over the years, many people questioned Armstrong as to what the "good luck, Mr. Gorski" statement meant, but he simply just smiled. He was a very stoic, straight individual, but he just smiled. On July 5th, 1995, in Tampa Bay, Florida, while answering questions following a speech, a reporter brought up the 25-year-old question about Mr. Gorski. And this time he finally responded because his Mr. Gorski had just died. So Neil Armstrong felt he could now answer the question. Here's the answer to who was Mr. Gorski. In 1938, when he was a kid in a small Midwestern town, he was playing baseball with a friend in the backyard. His friend hit the ball, which landed in his neighbor's yard by their bedroom window. His neighbors were Mr. and Mrs. Gorski. As he leaned down to pick up the ball, the young Armstrong heard Mrs. Gorski shouting at Mr. Gorski, "Sex? You want sex? You'll get sex when that kid next door walks on the moon." you know,
That's
you,
pretty good.
you think this guy, he's got to learn all about space, flying jets, doing all this math and everything. And during this entire adventure
Kept that
to
in the back of
become a
his mind.
successful, he's got that right here. Man, if I ever land on the
If I ever land on the moon, I'm going to acknowledge Mr. Gorski. That's
it's,
funny.
it's
That's
like,
pretty funny.
it's motivation.
You keep stuff in the back of our mind.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, hey, surprisingly, I've got some interesting numbers this morning. When I look at the inventory, we've been tracking, and I'm going to show you the chart because now's the holiday season, right? And so we expect inventory to keep going down now and through Christmas. In fact, some of the numbers we were looking at in the Cromford report, they stated that it's not the pandemic that's keeping inventory low, because in the truth be told, from numbers that I can't see, that only they can pull up, is that the amount of listings that are coming on every week are exceeding what were coming on in 2018 and 2019. But our buyer traffic is so heavy that it's gobbling them up every week. And the chart will show that. But I didn't realize that we were outpacing the previous 2 years in the amount of listings coming on. What's lower is the amount of inventory that we have. It's, down like 80% in some neighborhoods.
Mm-hmm.
So let me share the chart. You know how good I am at this. So let's see right there. Share chart. Boom. There it is. You can see it okay?
Yep.
Okay, so the blue lines, see over here. So we've been tracking this. Over here is like September when we started tracking this. So the blue line is the number of listings that are coming on every day. And then the little gold line here is the number of listings that went under contract. So notice how the blue line's been relatively close. And for
Mm-hmm.
several weeks, we had more listings coming on that went under contract. Then it changed dramatically when you get down to just a couple months ago. And then if you look here and you go back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks, the number of listings coming on were extremely low, like around 3,000, 3,700, and then the number of contracts. So if you go to here to line like 18, there's 4,254 listings that came on and 4,006 went under contract. You go to just a couple days ago, 2,552 came on and we have 3,137 go under contract. That's kind of alarming because that means there's 600 homes that got gobbled up and weren't replaced. Well, today we're at 3,340 homes that are listed and 3,400 under contract. See that blue line? It's almost even now.
Mhm.
But the jump from here to here in one day is 21%.
Wow.
What that tells me is they got through the Thanksgiving holiday and they're pretty eager to get their house back on the market because the amount of listings that calculate as back on market went up by about 250. We've been hovering about 700, and people take their homes off for a lot of different reasons, but and then we were hovering about 900 homes every week were coming back on market, and today we're back up to about 850. So if I expect this will dip again the closer we get to Christmas, but my spider sense tells me that January could be a higher jump. We could see a 40% increase in homes coming on the market in my uneducated guess. Because if it jumped 21% now after Thanksgiving going into the weekend, people are trying to get their homes sold now. You listed now, you're going to close the second week of January,
Mhm.
second or third week. So people are realizing that, putting their homes on. And so I'm encouraged that we start to see more inventory. It's not going to be enough to stop the bidding war. It's not even going to be close. So see what happens, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's been steady as usual. I mean, you've been doing a great job of tracking the numbers, and it's mind blowing how really steady just everything has been.
Yeah.
It's, it's almost kind of not to alarm anybody. It's almost creepy.
Yeah. It's like, how can it only be 3,400 to 4,000 week after week? And then, so there's a guy, senior director of housing and urban economics at Zillow, my favorite research company.
Yeah.
Here's what he says. So he's kind of talking about why houses are selling so fast now, right? And he's trying to make the case that the process is easier.
I saw that. Yeah, they said the process, the listing to list a house is easier, to see a house is easier. I just that doesn't really speak to the huge demographic shift that we have. It's to me, it's kind of a
Yeah, we're not selling more houses because it's easier. Because what he's saying, he goes, the author cites substitutes for in-person visits like 3D home tours and drone photography. Okay, that's true, but they still go to the house. So they
yeah.
use that to narrow it down, but they still go. Um, Phone-based entry into homes, which eliminates the need to make appointments. Well, I figured a Zillow guy would say that because Zillow lets you go in with your phone with the phone app. So does Open Door and OfferPad. But guess what? They're only 1.2% of our market right now.
Yeah.
That's not speeding anything up. And they said these innovations are likely to make home buying faster. No.
No. I mean, the loan process alone, it takes 30 to 45 days. That hasn't really changed.
Maybe he's saying that from the time that
Decision-
someone thinks they want to buy a house to when they actually go make an offer, maybe that window shortened.
Yeah.
That might, but it's not because they can use their phone to unlock a door.
Yeah.
And I think that the looking online, my experience on a lot of people that I have on my system, they look online for homes for months,
Hmm.
months and months and months.
Yeah.
So I don't see that slowing down. But I want to say thank you to our millions of visitors and viewers, and especially subscribers, because I've actually heard from several people this week from anywhere from Seattle to Austin, Texas, California. And so there is some movement that looks like December, January, that, people from Seattle and Texas are going to be coming over to look at some homes. It's interesting. I run ads on Facebook, and I've been running ads in San Francisco because you keep reading that everybody's going to be leaving there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I barely get any activity. I changed that ad from San Francisco to Seattle, and it's just bam, 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 bam.
Wow. Interesting.
The San Francisco people are moving to Seattle.
Huh.
Seattle people are
I'm
coming
moving.
here.
It's a rotation. That's well. I think speaking economically, I mean, we saw the job numbers come out today, and I was reading that they were obviously not what they. It was 245,000 jobs, but if pre-pandemic, that would have been a great number. But as this, it has slowed. There's people that are obviously getting the labor force participation rate has decreased because people are staying home. They can't find their job, and there's some economists and some talk this morning that they're kind of concerned about the deceleration in the jobs, because basically we've lost 21 million jobs, and back in May and June. May we added 2.7, and then in June we added like 4.8 million jobs, but they had 245,000 jobs. Like I said, the pandemic cost us 20 million jobs, so we're still 10 million jobs short. So
how's that possibly going to get any better? Because Chicago shut down, Washington State, Oregon, California, the mayor's asking you not even to go for walks. And then the governor shut down the entire state again. I mean, I'm very concerned about, unemployment, and the news is going to look really bad. But, maybe once we shake out of this, things will pop up. But I had stopped. I was in Postino's with a friend last night. And you ever been to Postino's?
no, never.
Uh,
I
well,
have.
yeah, I was going to say you're not human. So great bruschetta and wine.
Yeah.
So sitting outside, and the propane heater, because it was cold last night, for Phoenix terms, like 45,
Mm-hmm.
and so it fizzled out. They didn't replace the propane tank because they said they're out of money to buy propane.
Really?
And this server said that she was looking for other work because they're all very worried. And that story is repeating itself all over the country.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you said, there's that's the segment of the population that's really going to get hurt. The people that are buying the homes are people, they're making 100, 110,000 from their house, 120,000. It's there's going to be a trickle down effect, and obviously, like I said, we are going to see a slowdown. There's no doubt. I mean, rates actually went up a little bit because they said that the stimulus is obviously going to have to be kicking in here sooner than later, which obviously is going to hurt bonds. But I think rates have still been low. I think they might go a little lower, but not much lower. I mean, so there's still going to be a lot to shake out here in the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah, if Janet Yellen gets in, there's some concern about fiscal conservatives that say that her tightness with the Fed and her willingness to drop helicopter money could pretty much ensure that we're going to see inflation. And helicopter money is described as money that, right now the Fed can't give you money. But she's an advocate of what was done with the stimulus checks between the Fed and the Treasury working together to pass out more money directly to the people versus just trying to make lending more affordable. And that may have been one of the reasons why bonds started to tick up a little bit. But if this growth that we have in housing is not sustainable, not the rate we're going, it's going to have to change.
Yeah.
What we don't know is when, and we don't know the severity, but it can't continue the trajectory that it's on.
Yeah. I think once again, I think the severity is not going to be, people can't say we're going to see another crash.
Yeah, I don't
crash.
see a crash. I see some kind of leveling out. It may take 3 years.
Yeah, yeah. It certainly, once again, you and I are not, we don't have a crystal ball, or else you and I wouldn't be talking on this little, video right now. But it's just we're trying to, the numbers. Like you said a couple months ago, there's more negatives out there than positives, and yeah, they're going to get the vaccine, but I still think there's going to be the underlying forces are we're going to see a softening. If but if you buy if you buy a house, $400,000 house, and you see, like I said, we've been going up 12% at the rate of 12%, correct? And
Yeah, 12 and
any
more.
anything that's slower than, if it's 2 or 3%, it's still going to feel slow. And that maybe we get to, lower, slower growth. And if we do go negative, I mean, I don't, I just, the numbers that I see in the psychology, I go off more psychology. I put the numbers and the psychology together. Yeah, if we see, go from 12%, if you figure 12% growth to prices falling 5%, that's a 17, 18% dip from top to bottom. So maybe that's what we see is something that actually, we see a 5%, but you got a 400,000 house. Okay, you're down 20,000, but if you're not going to sell right away, no need to panic.
Yeah. Well, Maria here's saying I live in Williams, and a lot of people from California, Utah, Nevada, Washington, Wyoming moved here in the last 6 months and bought all the properties that were for sale. That's pretty much going on all over the place.
Yeah,
Idaho is saying the same thing, and so is Nashville, Tennessee, ironically from the same states.
yeah.
Um, so that story is being repeated often. We're just seeing a movement based on taxation. I tried logging onto a website that was recommended. It says howmoneymoves.com, and it it hasn't loaded, so I couldn't really get it. But it shows, here's Illinois with this high tax rate. Here's where the people from Illinois are going to a lower tax rate, and so we're gonna see more and more of that. But then again, that may change if we have a new president and a new administration, and it
Well,
all depends on the Senate. So who knows?
yeah, I mean, it brings up another point. I mean, not only has this been just a strange year with the pandemics, the riots, and the elections. The elections, I mean, the shutdowns, but you've also got incoming. You really do have a lot of people that probably are wondering, their move is, we'll see what Biden does as far as the taxation, because I bet you there will be people that are moving. I mean, we've seen such a migration, people moving all over. I don't think we've seen this type of, social economic move in many years. It's been that's what I think is throwing everything off.
Yeah, and second home sales have exploded as well.
Yeah.
People say, "Well, I still got my house, but let's go ahead and get that second home in another city since I can now work from home." But we don't know how sustainable that is as well. The but looking at the pandemic and everything, that's one of the things why I'm saying if you look at the market right now, um, you don't have to list your house and have it be on market for days on end. You can do an aggressive coming soon promotion and just let people in for 1 day, and I guarantee it'll sell.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now there's a program out there called 72 Sold. I don't it Greg Haig. I don't know what that thing's about, except kind of a gimmick. We guarantee it'll sell in 3 days, so they don't really guarantee it. I mean, I think they may come in and buy it with a group of investors, but that's what they're doing. They're just doing an aggressive coming soon campaign, and they're listing it for 3 days. Well, you can do that in 1 day,
Yeah.
and um, and you know what? You don't even need a sign in front of your yard if you don't want your neighbors to know what you're doing. It's that
Yeah.
Mark. It's that brutal. So if you want to move in January, you could put your house on the market this week. You're closing second, third week of January, and you could be all done in on one Saturday
Yeah.
outside of the scheduling to move and all that stuff. So I think it's a rare opportunity for some people if they really want to sell their home. The bidding wars are nowhere. There's no subsiding. They're going to remain here until we see that listings on board triple
Mm-hmm.
But even if they triple, if the amount of sales are climbing along with it, then it doesn't mean anything. So that line of listings has to exceed the offers coming in,
Yeah.
the homes under contract.
There's definitely a baby boomer effect going on too. There's a lot of people in that 27 to 35, 27 to 40 range that are just realizing that home ownership, you know, is in their future.
It's
They're trying,
easier to. The biggest struggle I see is when they try to find another rental when they have to move. Is like, well, who do you know that that'll accept my dog?
yeah,
And that become. I mean, dogs are very important to people. Are like, I gotta, there aren't too many places that will accept my 40-pound Rottweiler or however much the heck they weigh. So I think so.
100,
Chihuahuas, they'll take them anywhere.
40s out, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, I mean, like I said, rates are just, I mean, rates are once again, I mean, we're not talking anything, we're repeating myself, but rates have been very stubbornly low. And with the mortgage-backed security market and the treasury market is finally catching up. The mortgage-backed security market has been not as jittery the last week or two. It's been correcting. It's kind of the forces kind of seem to be coming together because there was back in March and April, May, that the MBS, the mortgage-backed security market, and the treasury market were just so disjointed, and it seems like they're kind of coupling more in place here the last couple of weeks.
Well, is that just because the central banks are buying the majority of them?
Yeah, I mean that obviously has a lot to do with it, but I mean, there's a lot of I mean, you could talk about it for, you can go to school for 4 years and study it and still not understand it. But it's there's been a decoupling that finally they're kind of settling down a little bit, and they're saying that they're reacting. Mortgage-backed security markets reacting a little bit more to the economic news, which is good. So not it's because before they were just acting on their own regard, and there's no rhyme or reason, but there's a little bit more rhyme or reason in the last couple of weeks now with the mortgage-backed security market, which is kind of selling off rates. So, but they're still in the 5% down, 2 5/8, 2 3/4. You can get, purchase money under 3%.
Yeah, let's hope it just kind of stabilizes. We don't see any spikes up. There isn't any indication that that's going to happen. I think the 250 to 3 1/4 range is brutal.
Yeah.
The 600 above range is also, we are setting records in Arizona in the million plus range too. Some of the highest record prices on homes, and that's purely driven by the stock market.
Yeah.
So that, it's just, there isn't a slow segment anywhere in Arizona, or is there a slow city?
No.
It's just, that's the way it is. Now, I don't know how much longer California's housing market can even stay solvent, being shut down for another 3 weeks, and the impacts of that. I just don't know. I really, I fear for what the next month is going to bring us.
It's gonna be interesting to watch that market to see if, we'll hopefully try to bring some data. Maybe we'll start digging up and seeing what, keep an eye on different news, articles that are coming out, research studies that, you're going to start to see that. It's gonna be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, I read a forecast by Michael Pollock. He's the big developer here in the Valley.
Yeah.
And he's basically telling everybody, look, just don't even watch the news, because all the economic data is going to be terrible for the next 3-4 months. But come spring, it'll be exploding. And his reasonings were, these businesses that are closing, they'll be replaced by new ownership. And there'll be a lot of pent up demand to purchase just about anything. But you have to get through these negative times in the next 3 months.
Yeah.
So he's a much smarter man than me. So we'll watch. I mean, this is a guy that owns theaters, development, strip malls all over the East Valley. So, he's quite the economist. So it'll remain to be seen to see what happens. So
it'll be interesting to watch the guy because like you said, he's got his pulse on. He owns quite a bit of the East Valley, retail strip malls and stuff like that. So it's gonna be interesting to keep an eye on him.
Our listings today are sitting at 75.42. If we get up to 8,500 again next week, I'll be very encouraged.
Okay.
That tells me that we will have a spring upwards after the holidays, which is good for people that are coming down to look for homes in January, February, March. So we
Yeah.
always have the most listings that come on in January. That should be the case again this year. But this year is the only year we find ourselves holding our breath. So
Yep.
before we go, I want to give a shout out to our friend Jill and wish her a speedy recovery. She's
Yep.
very, very sick. Jill has COVID, and we're very
Praying
worried
for her.
about her. And because when you hear us poke fun at Michigan, we're just poking fun at Jill. So, so
Yep.
Jill, get
Yep.
better.
Yep.
Get
God
home
bless.
soon.
All right, buddy. Well, hopefully we'll keep an eye on that Pollock news. And one last thing, they did the one breaking thing. Obviously, the loan limits on conventional loans went up to 548, 250. So they went from 510, 400 to 548. So they went up 38,000. So basically, anything under 548,250 is now considered a conventional loan versus a jumbo loan, which means better rates and less guidelines in terms of underwriting.
Cool. Well,
So,
this call I have to move to Thursday next week because
okay.
Friday I will be on an airplane. So,
All right.
all right. Thanks, everybody. Have a good
All right.
weekend, Pat.
See you, man. Bye.